Today, pick your favorite thumbnail sketch and rough it out on the same size as the final drawing will be. So this sketch should be 5 inches by 7 inches in height. Begin sketching lightly with a 2H pencil so you can make adjustments as you go along, and refer to your brainstorming to make sure you aren't missing important details and ideas. Don't worry about making the sketch too perfect, but take notes as you work that point out what you like and what needs adjustment. These notes will be helpful when you create a revised sketch of this drawing later on. If you have a border, draw that in first, as that will dictate where everything else begins. Then roughly sketch in the placement of anything that will be drawn in your composition. Do not draw in each object perfectly until you've roughed in the proportion and proper placement of all of your objects. When I first started mine, for some reason, I completely forgot to do this, and I wasted a good hour because I realized that the banner that I put in first was being drawn too big, and I couldn't get the dinosaur to fit in the spot where I needed it to go. I also drew the dinosaur too close to the banner, so I ended up having to restart, which is what you're seeing here. Because I didn't rough the placement and proportion of all my objects first, like you're watching me do now, I had to restart everything. So let my mistake be a lesson to you. So here's what I started doing at first. I was like, oh, I think I want to put this banner here. So I perfectly drew it in, measured everything out. I got my ruler out and I measured like the distance of the height of the banner on all sides to make sure it was going to be the same. I measured how far it came in from the sides. And I spent an hour just putting in this banner thinking that I was putting it in the right spot. Come to find out an hour later that I had drawn it too big, too low, and all of that work, time, and effort was completely wasted. So once again, this be a lesson to you that you always want to rough everything in first and not draw every object perfectly, hoping that it's going to be in the right spot, because trust me, it's not going to be. All right, so back to my original sketch. After you like where everything is placed and the size of what you are going to draw those objects in, then you can go back in and perfect the detail. And use this roughen stage as a way to experiment with your composition still. I tried changing the angle of my taco to see if I could get a better implied line, but I ended up not liking it as much as my original design. I also changed the direction of the tail. Instead of it curling back, I liked how it was kind of going back and curling up. So use this rough sketch as a final place to experiment before you finalize the drawing. Whenever you are drawing, you have to draw from reference imagery. This dinosaur that I drew, I ended up having to reference almost 10 different images to get the proportion, body positioning, anatomy, and facial expressions looking the way I envisioned in my mind. This is a drawing class, and we still need to develop our skills. So everything you are drawing must have at least one or several reference photos you are constantly looking at to make your novel, short story, or poem design as accurate as possible. I know you guys can't see my reference photos as I'm drawing because they're outside the screen, but I had my iPad up and I had all of my images right in front of me, so I could be constantly glancing back at them to make sure that everything I was putting in was looking as accurate as possible. So you need to do the same thing. I want these to be developed, highly skilled drawings where it looks like you're putting a lot of time and effort into it. I don't want them to look like little clip art cartoon drawings. They should be three-dimensional. They should have a lot of interesting contours and forms, and should be just drawn really, really well. You have 2 days to finish out this rough sketch. Try to make it as accurate as possible, but still loose enough where you're still experimenting, but where it's fairly close to what you want the final piece to look like.